Thank you all for coming. My name is Anton. I'm a journalist. I work here at IMMORTAL, and we are a venture studio that makes Web3 solutions for everyone that's interested, and interesting as well. So I will just, be the moderator of this little panel discussion here. Maybe we should have you introduced. So if you grab the microphone, Frans, and then you can say maybe just 5 sentences about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Frans Hammer. I'm the vice president of the Danish Olympic Committee and Sports Confederation, called DIF. We are 2 million members. We are 9,000, we call it foreninger, clubs. And there are 62 different organization, federation around us, from soccer, football to mini golf in the other parts. And that is what I'm working with. We are all volunteering up in our system. And in my daily life, I'm a advisory director in KMD, who is one of the most largest software developer company here in Denmark, building up the society and stuff like that. So the most meaningful and powerful effort we have in this society, actually, to bring sport to people.
Thank you. Kevin, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks Frans for that. Thanks Anton for the invitation to speak on this panel, and pleasure to be here with you, Ronnie, as well, and great introduction from Nikolai. So quickly introducing myself, my name's Kevin. I represent our fan token team here at Binance. I am then tasked with then speaking to different IPs to then pitch our fan token project and then sign them on to launch a fan token with us. Throughout this panel, I will then elaborate further on our strategy change, which might be interesting to some of you here that are attending this panel. In addition, I am also representing our Lazio fan token project, in which we integrate our different product verticals within Lazio's ecosystem. So one example being, we've done NFT ticketing, which all Lazio fans can convert their tickets free of charge into an NFT ticket, which I think is a very strong use case for blockchain technology in terms for several sports fans, which we will also elaborate further on this panel discussion. For several sports fans that traditionally would never have onboarded onto Web3, this is a great first product that they would have experienced within Web3, this being a digital ticket from their point of view. For a sports team, NFT ticketing really then solves one issue, which is the legal resale of tickets on the secondary market. Yeah. So briefly, that's my role at Binance, where I speak to teams, advise them on fan tokens, and really then scale up their fan token project, integrate our different product verticals within their own ecosystem. Yep.
Thank you. And Ronnie?
Yeah, so I head the commercial activities here at IMMORTAL, and before that I headed the commercial activities at the Danish Football Federation. So already from there on, I was very, very interested in the fan token universe. The disclaimer is that I'm extremely positive and enthusiastic about the potential of engaging fans through tokens, and I'm extremely skeptical towards most of the stuff we've already seen. So that's the disclaimer, right?
That's good. That's good, Ronnie. Okay, so then let's get started. We asked the question, will crypto save modern sports and modern football? And to answer that question, we need to know what the problem is. Right? That makes sense, right? Okay, so what is the problem with modern sports, Ronnie?
The problem with modern sports is centralization, and what Web3 provides is decentralization, so that already answered the question. But what you're seeing right now, for example in Qatar, is a lot of old white males protecting their power, protecting their platforms, being very hesitant and late to adapt new things, new inputs, new cultures, and being very hesitant to do what's right, or to put down their, I don't know what the English expression is, but to put down their feet, to sort of make a stand on what's right, because they're protecting their power, they're protecting their own either personal or short-term national interests. So I believe if you decentralized stuff like that, you would have a stronger connection to fan bases, you would have a stronger connection to changes in culture and perception, and thus also have a more a better development and a development in sports that were more in line with the actual users. So, yeah, I think crypto, if handled right and sort of adapted correctly, could be part of the solution to saving sports.
We'll get to that. Frans, before we talk about fan tokens and what fan token is specifically, how important are fans for modern sport?
That is one of them. There are two important things when I'm working in the sports area as a political. That is bringing sport back to the people. Everyone should have the opportunity to do some sport, and bringing in a sustainable way the fan part back to the people. From last Saturday, the last round in the Premier League, I was invited by Liverpool to have a discussion over there. That is not, they have some few tickets in Anfield, who is the home part of Liverpool. But if you are normal people live in Liverpool, you have not the option anymore to go to Premier League. That is the challenge right now. So that is what we see only in few sports. What we see in general is that you go into more less leagues, organization who have the big industry. Maybe some of you can remember back in days when you have the national television and so on. They bring sports news from different sport, volleyball and one polo and stuff like that. That didn't exist anymore. So there's only football. That is the Olympic Games. That is a few other sport who is interested in cross culture, and so we still focused on put people back to the clubs, back to be activated in different places everywhere they live here in the country and live in the world. This is the more sustainable part, not only to have the activities, but also bringing people back. So it's not only to be activated, that is also the democratical issue we talk about.
Let's talk about what fan tokens are in general, because maybe we have different...
I think you should take this one.
Yeah, good call. Kevin, you work with fan tokens on a daily basis.
I believe fan tokens are the underlying product that brings all fan engagement behavior under one mechanism through its multidimensional capabilities. So first of all, fan tokens provide access to various utility features. Such utility features that we host on our Binance fan token platform include a voting poll where fans have a voice where they can vote on certain outcomes. For example, the design of a jersey, just to increase the bond that fans share with their team. Other utility features that we have include Player of the Month, where fans could vote on who they believe is the best player performing within that month. Another feature which we've launched recently, which is called Football Fever, which is a prediction feature which allows fans to then win rewards for the upcoming national football matches for this major tournament that is ongoing. So all these various utility features are provided access simply through owning a fan token. In addition to fan tokens, there has to be a true value and benefit to the fans themselves. So for example, for Lazio, all fan token holders have 10% unlimited discount at all official Lazio offline stores in Rome. So that's a true benefit that all Lazio fans can then have simply by just owning a fan token. So it's a really low cost, low barrier engagement mechanism which allows fans to then engage on a deeper basis. Then finally, what fan tokens also provide is access to money can't buy experiences. So these are experiences such as meet and greet with the players, both physical and digital. One personal favorite of mine would be a personalized message from the players to the fans themselves, where fans simply provide a script. We pass it on to the players record it on their mobile phones, and we send it over to the fans. So all these money can buy experiences are all made available through one platform, one-stop shop to claim these money can buy experience. And it's all rewarded through the possibility of fan tokens, where we can track engagement through, for example, with ticketing, through NFT ticketing, we can track that they've attended the stadium. There's a product called NFC chips where you could potentially sports teams in the future would start having this on their jerseys, where if you scan, you could then claim that you have purchased a jersey as well. So you can then take all these physical behaviors that a fan traditionally engaged in, make it digital, track the behavior, and then reward the fans by claiming points and then offering these various benefits and experiences through this one product, the fan tokens.
Okay, so just to dumb it down a bit more, if people, you're probably pretty clever, all of you, but maybe there's one of you that's not as clever as the rest. So how do I get started with fan tokens if I have a sports team I want to support?
Yeah, so what we see right now is that teams are launching fan tokens with third parties. So us being one, Binance fan token is one third party. We've launched 4 fan tokens with Lazio, Porto, Santos, and Alpine. There are other fan token providers as well, which can support teams in launching their own fan tokens. One interesting strategy change, which we believe is really the future of fan tokens, is that the teams launch the fan tokens themselves, that they hold the entire project themselves and don't rely on a third party. So what we're doing right now with Binance Fan Token is instead of actually launching the fan tokens on behalf of the teams, we would work with that team, consult them. So essentially would be a Web3 consultancy service, which would guide these teams to launch their own fan tokens. We would provide certain utility features to them. We would guide them through how to shape their tokenomics, which is extremely complex. We would also advise them how, during the entire listing process, of how to then have their tokens listed and accessible to the average fan. So in this case, the teams then decide themselves what exactly the value would be for all the fan tokens. They can decide the utility provided, and they control the entire fan token project themselves. As what we see is with our 4 fan tokens, with a large team within Binance, extremely time consuming and resource intensive. So really the scalability then comes to provide true value to the fan, is to provide the power within the teams themselves.
Okay, so that makes sense. That aligns perfectly what you are saying. Ronnie, here at IMMORTAL, we are not making fan tokens per se, but we are trying to develop some fan communities, fan universes. Can you tell just a bit about that, and then we can maybe talk about if this is the solution to the problem that we're talking about?
Yeah, sure. What we are trying, and what you're obviously trying as well, is to move these fan engagement systems or capabilities that we have now, the Web3 possibilities that we have now, from something that is interesting and sort of an overpowered subscription service, and into something that could be even more in alignment with what we believe that the third generation internet would really look like. Something where you decentralize even further, and where the rights and the capabilities that you give the fans would be something even closer to actual power, rather than some sort of utility or some sort of capability that you're giving based on something that's still very, very centralized. So we're moving from something that's overpowered subscription services to something that is truly decentralized fan engagement. And how are we going to see that? Well, we're building different fan universes now with different rights holders in sports and entertainment, and we're trying to engage our partners into doing even more of that. Because if we want to see these changes that we're discussing, and if we want to get closer to the fans, we have to give them even more ownership, and we have to move them even further away from this centralized sort of opportunities they're getting. Because voting, as we have the, and I understand we're moving, so I'm pretty sure we agree, so we're moving through different types of fan tokens now, and we started, especially with the stuff we saw from Chili's and Socios and all this stuff, we started with something very, very simple, and that was also quite speculative, where it was very, very difficult to decode what you were actually buying. Were you buying an investment object? Were you buying some sort of a voting possibility only for like who would participate in a training match? How would the shirt look like? And then we moved on to something more integrated, and something that's even more integrated with the clubs. But what we'll see later on is something that could look like part ownership, or that could look like co-management of decisions, where you would have actual decision making decentralized into the fans. And that's what we're trying to look at now. But it's like we're not there yet. It's a process. No one is doing it right now, but we can see where we would end up, hopefully.
Okay, so a little more power to the fans. Maybe they could have too much power. Is fans the best people to control a club? Could we talk a bit about that? Because when you say that if you're a token owner or if you are a fan of a club, then you have to also make some decisions?
Well, you have to sort of pivot your understanding, because the way you're describing it now is still that someone central gives away power to someone else. Where we would probably pivot into would be that no one is giving away power, but people are holding it together rather. So it's also about, so if you continue to think about these American club owners or something like that, that would sort of partly give away small pieces of power based on a potential income stream. That's where we are now, and that's where we will develop from. It's completely natural, and there's no criticism in that. That's just where we are. But if we want to pivot into something more decentralized, then we should probably look to what's going on in Germany, with the fans there taking actual ownership and taking sort of actual control, and affecting actual decisions rather than something you give away.
Okay, so you're talking about power, and you, Kevin, and also you, Frans, is talking about content, unique access to content. I know, Frans, that you've been talking about it's difficult if you are following a niche sport to watch the games or watch the content. And right now, the best solution is to put it on Facebook, right, or on Instagram. Could you talk a bit about your dreams for sports communities online?
Yeah, and first of all, I totally agree that there's a lot of step in this part, and that is also what we have this kind of dialogues. There's a new competences should move into the sport industry actually right now, and that is what I'm here to have this dialogue with potential new competences and so on. The commercial part is moving to still more few different sport, again football, moving for that. If we look into also the example from the Olympic here now, as a Danish Olympic Committee, we bring in all the content to Facebook, and also from some of the small sport, they're pushing a lot of information around national team, national leagues, and stuff like that. The problem is that the money is not falling for that. So actually, back in the days where we have one channel on the television, the sold out to some input and stuff like that, and run some money back to the sport. Now they're pushing that into Facebook, and Facebook have the whole economy system around that. That is the problem actually. So if you should bring the opportunity, the economy back in the sports system, we need to have some new community, and that is what you talk about, to have some new revenue stream back to the sport industry, and that could be fan token actually in some way, and that is where I'm very interested to figure it out. We didn't know that because there's no one out there actually. Of course, there's a more commercial part. You talk about the ownership in the American sport. I need to see some relevant project into the more grassroots part of the sport to moving this agenda. That is what I say to this kind of things.
Yeah, and the problem with putting stuff on Facebook and Facebook getting all the money is like a problem for everyone and every niche genre of things.
Not for Facebook, but that is the only one that's not a problem for me.
So that should be fixed either ways. But maybe sports is a good gateway to fixing that problem, and maybe we should talk a bit about the fans. Why are we seeing all these fan tokens and sports getting into crypto and this space? Maybe you can tell that, Kevin. How ready are sports fans to go into crypto, and are they more ready than people that love knitting?
Yeah, so I think we're still at the very early stages in terms of adoption for Web3 and sports. Obviously, there are certain areas of sports which definitely have a much higher adoption rate currently. What we've seen right now is that dominating the space of fan tokens would be football teams. I think the reason is quite clear, is because football is the largest sports globally in terms of a follower base. So it's a mass market sport. In terms of then adopting these users for a Web3 product, it's not simple. It's actually quite a challenging point, because you really then have to sell them on what value is being provided through these developments within Web3. So there are certain fan bases which I think would be definitely have a higher adoption rate in this case, which would be esport fans. This is because these fans are already engaging on a digital basis in comparison to traditional sports fans. And in this case, but esport fans, we also then have to pay attention to that they are extremely critical of what Web3 can provide. So this then comes down to what we are providing through fan tokens and what Web3 is providing actually needs to provide a true value. It needs to enhance the engagement between the fans and the team they support. So in this case, if you're able to bring the whole community together and provide this seamless interaction between the fans and the teams themselves, then this is where you can really sell the benefits of Web3.
Could it also have the opposite effect that if your fan is engaged in crypto and fan tokens and they see some crypto logo on the team, that it could push some fans away?
In terms of it, if they would see a competitor brand, that they would be less reluctant.
We talked about the state of crypto, and maybe that has an effect on the brand.
So I think that's one thing that when we see crypto news within sports, the PR is relatively quite negative. That if there's an announcement between a crypto brand and a sports team, it's usually not in a positive light. But what we've seen with fan tokens, it's a very easy to understand product. If it's providing value to the fans themselves, then it's going to be spoken about quite positively. So sorry to keep mentioning NFT ticketing, but this is one product that was quite important. That when we then launched NFT ticketing with Lazio, we had over a couple 100 million impressions globally within the first week of its announcement, and 85% of the PR articles were positive. For a crypto announcement within sports, this is really unheard of. So when you're providing then true value to the fans themselves, then the fans would then start accepting the innovative developments.
That makes sense. And negative PR, Ronnie, you've been pretty vocal about not making shitty fan tokens, as you call it. But why do you think that that there is this negative PR around this area?
Well, the negative PR around fan tokens has come because there has been a lot of shitty fan token projects. And that's probably the good thing about this crypto winter now, is that the respectable companies will stay on, and a lot of the crazy, insane examples we've seen will disappear and bankrupt. Like, we've literally seen Premier League clubs, La Liga clubs, Italian football clubs have sponsors that no one ever heard of, shirt sponsors that no one ever heard of, crypto providers that we couldn't even find the web pages of, that were obviously different sorts of scams, everything from just sort of spending spree based on money we have no clue where they came from, and also whitewashing schemes, and like, it's been crazy Wild West. It's been even worse than betting was 15 years ago. So it's been super crazy, and it's been very, very poorly reflecting on both the sort of crypto business, but 100% also on the football business, because there's been so many very, very immoral cash grabs around, where football clubs have taken their fans prisoners in something that they should have been like punished so hard for. So that's definitely where the bad PR comes from. It's because it's well earned, and there has been some extremely shitty cases. So we're hoping that now that a lot of weird examples will go bankrupt and will disappear, that will make room for the respectable ones staying on, but also that some of the clubs will soon start to call out the other clubs that are doing very, very poor projects.
So if what we need is a shift of power, where should this change come from? If it's not centralized, how can it be truly decentralized, the power of, let's say, a football club?
Well, it is very. So some of it is regulation, for example, because a lot of regulations right now in the system that Frans is solely responsible for doesn't allow fractionalized ownership, for example. We also have a lot of legislation, both on an EU level and in a Danish level, where this legislation is very, very far beyond. So fractional ownership in general is very, very difficult of sort of anything.
So it will be ready in 50...
60, 70... Yeah. No, it will be difficult, but as soon as we have more... so, for example, 3 years from now, Binance and Lazio will have to revamp what they're doing. Now they have a lot of sign-ups, they have a lot of wallets, they have adaptability that's at a completely different level, and then they will sit together, I'm sure, and discuss like what's next step of this. How will we do this? How will we do lifelong season tickets that you will now be able to pass because it's based on NFTs, and you can sell it or pass it to your son or daughter. You could do actual legal inheritance of season passes because the legislation is there. All these kind of things. So the adaptability is relatively slow, but it's both on a legislation-wise, but it's also on sort of mentally from clubs. Yeah. You still see, you even have Danish clubs that will do an agreement with a not very sort of good fan token provider. They will just take 50% of the turnover, and then they will give some sort of pretty basic sponsor rights to the fan token provider, and then they'll just say like, hasta la vista, see you in 3 years, and it has nothing to do with true fan engagement. And so it's the clubs need to stop doing these cash grabs, of course, and it's very difficult when someone is waving a check and you have this wonderful Brazilian player you wanna pick up. So it's difficult, but it needs a little bit of discipline, like we see in the betting sphere, basically.
And it sounds like, Kevin, that you are already thinking in that lines with putting the fan tokens to the clubs and not owning them or not being the one in control at Binance, right?
Yeah, so that would be the plan. That we give more power to the clubs themselves to own ownership of entire ownership in this case of the fan token project. I think what you are also referring to is the degree the fans should have ownership within the club through the fan tokens. I think there's a management team within sports for a reason, that they run the daily operation, and fan tokens should not have access to this. I think fan tokens, by nature, the definition of fan token is a utility token, meaning that the sole purpose of a fan token is to enhance the engagement between the fan and the team they support, and not to make business decisions. This is, as Ronnie was mentioning about Frans, that there's certain ownership that you can't give up for certain sports teams, that some sports teams are even publicly listed where they have a certain obligation to their shareholders, and in this case, fan tokens should not provide access to the fans, as it can become quite challenging. So
maybe Frans has something to say.
Maybe more for a public service message, something like that, to understand the issue around, because we have two systems in the sport. Of course, we have the more commercial part. Here in Denmark, we have the football. They are connected from us because there's a commercial part, companies. If you call FC Copenhagen, Brøndby, stuff like that, that is a commercial part. But they have a membership in the grassroots part. So if you take Copenhagen, FC Copenhagen, there's a part of KB, who is the old-fashioned football club here in Copenhagen. So they have the connection to the grassroots. The reason I'm sitting here, the reason I feel that we should go into this kind of discussion as, you know, large organization, grassroots organization, Olympic Committee and Sport Confederation here in Denmark, is that we are not here for money. We are a non-profit organization. So we can working together to have a more ethical part. The problem is we run into the commercial part of the sport, the football club here. There's reason in the community is to own, to have money, to spend money and stuff like that. Our moral, our purpose in our life is bringing people out to someone, bringing startup, do something. We are not in the community for, you know, earn money. So that is the good things to have this kind of organization in the sports industry also, that we are not profit organization. We have more the ethical part, we can work in together. The problem is what you start to say, that of course I'm very young, actually sitting as a vice president in some Olympic committee. Actually I'm the youngest in the world. When we go to a meeting in IRC, when you are 16, 70 years old, you are a member of the youth part of the community. So I can wait in a little bit to work in that. So diversity in the sport industry, of course that is an issue. Of course, when there's only white men, you talk about it, of course it is. We need to talk about to bring in diversity in this kind of leadership also. The good thing here in Scandinavian, and the good things here in Denmark, where we really feel that we should take responsibility in it, that we are non-profit, so we can bring some of the good ideas that are in this room. You talk about a lot of good things, I only say that is interesting for us to work with it, because we can have the ethical standard very, very high, because we are not here for earn money.
And maybe that's where the technology comes in, and all of this is based, of course, on blockchain and crypto. Ronnie, how important is the underlying technology to make this changes that Frans is talking about?
It's a very interesting question, because if we should be 100% honest, and of course we should in this panel, then the technology is probably not utilized so much yet. We often, the test questions we often have in here when we discuss with Dennis, our CTO here, is that could this have been done with a QR code? And sometimes it could. Could this have been done with a subscription service? And sometimes it could. So we have a tool here. We have a technology in the blockchain technology, and also the associated Web3 technologies, that we know are going to be insane, and we know they're going to help us so much. But we still have a way to go to utilize it fully. So it's getting better and better all the time, and especially in ticketing. I'm a firm believer that ticketing will be the first. When we look outside of the finance world, that ticketing is going to be the first mass adoption business where we'll see NFTs, for example, because it's so obvious that all the issues in ticketing will be solved by using NFTs. So I agree in that, but we're still just a few years ahead. So right now it's very much the thinking. Like, what is the thinking in Web3? How can we use that to engage fans more? And then the underlying technology will sort of jump in very soon. We're starting, we're getting there, and we can see what will happen. But right now, to be honest, right now the technology is not super important for what we're doing with tokens and fans. It's more the thinking. I don't know. Do you agree, Kevin?
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. There's one part where I think technology needs to be much further developed, which will be the metaverse. I completely agree in terms of adoption for fan token. The fan token itself is a very simple to understand product. So right now we don't need the technology. We just need to provide utility through the fan tokens. But I think when it comes to really scaling fan tokens, because fan tokens could potentially become the exclusive digital currency for a team. Let's say that. So first of all, the idea of the metaverse I think is quite interesting. We're at very early stages. That we have to convince individuals to spend hours of their day to take it away from doing their traditional activities, change their consumer behavior to adopt to living in the metaverse. But when this idea does come, where fans are taking their engagement with their club into this so-called virtual world, the metaverse, I think clubs really have quite a substantial upside in terms of this. This could be potentially fans selling digital merchandise, so selling an NFT with their jersey, which their avatar would then walk through the metaverse with that. I think that's quite scalable. Imagine we also change consumer behavior, where fans start watching live sports events in the metaverse as well, where every team has their own stadium within the metaverse. And in this case, they could sell tickets to that match to watch it and have an enhanced experience rather than watching simply just through linear broadcast and OTT. And in this case, sell tickets exclusively just with fan tokens. And this case would really significantly increase the trading volumes of the fan tokens itself as well. But that's one aspect. But in terms of mass adoption right now, you're completely right, Ronnie, that it's more the idea and to really sell that value is being driven through the fan tokens.
So it makes sense that some of the utilities are based on technology and the so-called metaverse, or the mix between realities, right?
Some would be, but right now I think definitely the focus should be on actually proving the concept of fan tokens, which the technology is not as important, but rather the value provided through the fan tokens.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, then find us around here. Thank you so much for coming and listening to the very wise men here. Thank you so much.